Hi there, it's CJ Miller. I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana. Across the Red River is beautiful Bossier City, Louisiana. And come check us out. Lots of fun things to do. Um, just always something going on. Right now, what's going on is laundry. I'm doing laundry. Um, okay, I'm going to help some people out here, my age, maybe a little bit older, even a little younger, I'm seeing this trending thing. I know that you all have seen it. It's even made the news, and it's like, really? Is that? Okay. And it is the coin phrase 6-7. And that's what it's kind of like a whimsical, nonsensical answer that kids run around and say 6-7. There's even like a South Park episode. If there's a South Park episode, it's trending. It's pop culture or whatever. But um, it's a whole big, huge report on what does it mean, and people are just like scratching their heads, and the kids are like, "Don't try to figure out our language." It is the Generation Alpha. The only thing that is alpha about this generation, by the way, is that they're the first generation born completely in this new millennium. So they're technically the first true millennial born humans. Everybody else, all the millennials, they were millennials because they came of age around the time of the changing of the millennium, the start of the new millennium. But uh, mostly they're just kind of like a later version of the. They're either the children of Generation X or an extension of that latter part of the Generation X. Uh, I thought it was so funny sometimes. This some time ago, Kanye West was ranting, and it was like, "Hey, we're the millennials, man," and it's like, dude, Kanye, you're not a millennial. You are way older than millennial people. You are a Generation X. I guess that's how you identify, right? If you identify whatever, stupid, I don't know. He's not. He's not. Kanye West is not a millennial. He wasn't when he said that shit, and whatever. So, but who cares, right? Like 6-7. That is the phrase that we're going to talk about. 6-7. Kids run up to each other and they're like 6-7, and they think that they have a secret code. You look at the context in which it's used. It basically means there's an actual translation in the context of which it's used, which means it doesn't matter, or so what, who cares, that kind of thing. It's a statement of uh, the subject being inconsequential, completely, completely irrelevant. That's basically what it means, and so it's kind of like the modern way of saying "who cares" or "so what" or whatever, but in a nice, more bubbly, fun way of doing it. And the reason why I know this, uh, you know, uh, guys and gals, dudes, dudes and dudettes, whatever, it's because I am of the generation that is the Generation X. We were the first apathetic generation, uh, and we were the first generation to be raised by ourselves and a television, and maybe an Atari, or in my case, we were poor. We had a ColecoVision, uh, and a VCR, but we were the last family on the block to get a VCR, paid off in installments to Fingerhut, So, yeah, whatever. Here is an example of 6-7, and you can tell the hand gesture up and down. But it you might refer it to what we used to say six on one half, six on one hand, half a dozen on the other, meaning whatever. It doesn't matter. Well, 6, 7. If there is a difference, it is so different. It is so minimal between 6 and 7 that it literally doesn't matter. You can stop racking your brain over what 6, 7 means. I, by the way, because I was raised by a television set, my mom was at work and my dad worked all the time, and my parents didn't always live together. Like every 2 or 3 years maybe they would live together for a while, and then they would separate and live apart, back and forth and back and forth. They didn't actually officially divorce until I was uh, uh, a grown little gay boy. But yeah, but that's basically it. And then my uh, sister was doing her thing, and so basically it was, me at home by myself for a lot of my teen years, and I was raised by a television. We didn't have internet yet. Back in my day, we had, but whatever. So I kind of, my generation, we kind of know apathy. We are the first to be jaded by apathy. You know, the generation before us, the baby boomers. Yep, they were the ones that had hope, and they were, change and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I did some of that in like being visual, more, you know back in my day, we didn't have a bunch of letters, and we didn't have a rainbow flag. We were still, it was still, I feel old. But yeah, it was still, largely because of the winkish use of a pink triangle in Rocky Horror Picture Show. But the pink triangle that the Nazis used to persecute gay people in Europe during the Nazi, uh, you know, rule, that business, the Holocaust. Uh, we kind of turned it into an emblem here in the U.S., and it was like pink triangles were everywhere, and the upside down pink triangle, and then that was a symbol. It was, instead of the rainbow, it was a pink triangle, and we just referenced the gay community, and then we started to say the gay and lesbian community, and then later on, they added the other letters of whatever for the whatever. But yeah, it used to just be the gay community, and it was kind of like all encompassing because it was like uh, you know um, women were gay women too. It was like it was just it was just an all inclusive thing. We were all inclusive without having to necessarily single out. You know. But yeah, that was the thing. That was the hope that we did, and I did a lot of that. And it was basically because we needed to, advocate for, you know, better treatment of those afflicted with HIV disease. That we needed to change the way that the medical community looked at that and treated it, because there were people who would get like, they would come in contact, they would be found HIV positive for the HIV virus, but they could get no uh, help until they progressed to the advanced stages, then called AIDS. And that was the big advocacy thing that I did in the 90s with our local Philadelphia Center place that I did some volunteer work for. Not altruistically. I had a need to fulfill a community service obligation to the courts, but it was through that experience that I did learn and become more mindful of the need for that. And so that's what I did for a lot of the 90s, and I talked about that and everything. I didn't go around passing out pamphlets to every single person that I met or anything like that, but I did, speak and talk and get involved with the local gay community, basically about education and self protection, and you know, that's really what we had back then. And then, of course, medications, better medications, gradually came along. But aside from that, like, you know, when I was a teenager, they didn't have the word for it. They did not have the word for it. But if you're looking for the example of long, messy hair and faded jeans that were ripped and flannel shirts that looked like they were bought out of the back of the clearance rack, or at a thrift store. They were hand me downs or something like that. If you're looking at that image and you're saying grunge, I was doing that way before Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam, and you know uh, clothes that were too big, sometimes clothes that were too small or whatever. So that was me. That was me. That was my, and it wasn't an image. It was sincerely who the hell I was. And it wasn't to be cool. As a matter of fact, I was pretty much the downtrodden. I was kind of like the mark of my entire middle school. I went to two middle schools, and I was kind of like the mark at both of those middle schools. I did fine during elementary school. Uh, for the most part. I mean, there was some weirdness, but it was because, whatever. It's because we moved from a very small town back to Shreveport, and I had trouble reconciling my uh, very Cajun sounding accent at the time, trying to reconcile. Like I would go around and say things like "I'm a first class coon ass," like being like a little. Second and third grader, go entered third grade in Shreveport, and I'm like, yeah, and sounded like the high pitched voice. My voice is kind of high pitched now. You can imagine what it sounded like in third grade, like gee whiz. But I had a filthy mouth, not around my parents, of course, they didn't allow that. But boy, did I. Yeah, I mean I had a filthy mouth like in third grade. I always remember, but so yeah, and I was very defensive of myself, but that was fine. I took whatever. Um, it was so weird because I remember third grade went in and we sat down and we did the assessment, and I totally failed it, and they put me at like basically the imbecile table. And I went home, had like one sit down with my mom. We went over what the requirements were. Went back the next day, and pretty much aced, and ended up at the top of the class, a little table of the smart kids and whatever. But I still had that cultural difference. It was Barrett Elementary, which was a very much a school that was. Uh, I don't care about this. I'm glad for the experience, because it's because of this experience that I did not grow up racist. But it is because we were learning integration and everything, but because we were late to do that in Louisiana, by the way. But yeah, the only thing I didn't like in third grade was that teacher and that teacher's assistant would just stand by, but that teacher would just beat the hell out of the students, like bad, like it was like breaking yardsticks over their backs and stuff like that. So, like she was Miss Henderson, and then she married and became Miss Faison. She was an extremely mean lady. Uh, and I think she eventually got sacked for it. But yeah, she was horrible. But yeah, but we worked out our we were we didn't care. We the white kids would sit right next to the black kids, and of course there were, we were probably about 3 to 4 times the amount of black kids as they were white kids, and they didn't care. They just we sat around. I wasn't supposed to go into the Wilkerson Terrace housing projects, but I did every day on the way home. I cut through. We cut through there on the way to school too. Whatever. Um, but Yeah, I got my ass tore up for that. But that wasn't like a racist thing. It was because it was, it was very heavily, gang territory, and it was, yeah, yeah, it was a dangerous place. But I was just too stupid to know it. But anyway, uh, it was so weird because I was terrified of this little dog. My friend Malcolm, he became my friend later, but I didn't know who he was. And there was this little dog, this little white dog that used to like just terrify me. Now this was a few months after I was attacked by a Doberman Pinscher and had to have my ear sewn back on to my head. I mean, it's like from here, there's a scar. That's not a vein or anything. That's actual. My ear was ripped down in here and it was hanging off and all this. It was, So I was like, skittish of any sort of dog. If I know the dog, I'm great. If I don't know the dog, I'm like, I'm gonna stay the hell away to this day. But that's why I try to make friends with dogs. I try to let them know, hey, I'm your friend. And you know what I don't do? I don't smile at them. Dogs think of that as aggressive, showing teeth. Yeah, so don't do that. And don't stare dogs in the eye either. Even when you're trying to like make a connection, like a soul connection, you can't do that with the dog, especially with a larger breed because they may trigger. They may not understand. So you have to, yeah, dogs will assert territory and dominance or whatever. And that's so this dog that this Doberman Pinscher, I still to this day understand, and I understood even when it happened that the dog was not malicious, and I really feel that he was just kind of meaning to push back. I don't think he was meaning to attack because basically I was petting him. My sister was there. The little friend we had went to see, he wasn't home, but we were about to leave the yard, and then the dog came around, and we'd been familiar enough with the dog, so he came up, and then we pet him for a second, and then I looked at him and said I was going to get a dog like him or something like that, and I looked dead in his eyes and smiled, and I triggered that response, that defense, and yeah, but he didn't bite. He just jumped, like jumped at me and barked, but it was, it wasn't a bite, and it was his claw that caught my ear and went around and scratched the back of my head. Which we didn't find the wound in my head for long. And then I was so like so it was so sick southern really that right that the scar in the back of my head. But I didn't think that. I thought it was such a crucial thing that like for the rest of my life, it's like whenever I go to get a haircut, it's like don't show the hair, don't show the scar. And now it's like I don't really have like very thin on top, hardly any. He's like, what difference does it matter? But yay, 6'7". That's yeah, that's it. 6 on one half, 7 on the other. It's a new way of saying 6 on one half, half a dozen on the other. So, like for instance, I've already talked about this. I kind of went a little cruise crazy because the cruises that I wanted to book, I wanted to go and I wanted to visit Miami, right? Uh, and while I was down in Miami, I'm going to be there in February, going into March for a few weeks. And while I'm down there, I thought, well, I may as well try to book a cruise. And this because I used to work down there. I used to live and work down there, and I want to go see some people I haven't seen in a while. So that's my treat to myself because I haven't really gone on a real vacation in a couple of years. A real like I just came back from a cruise. But that's not true. But I booked this before I took that cruise. So anyway. But since I was planning on that vacation and then I had the cruise, I realized that I was gonna, I really did. I started, my friend Jay and I, we booked a cruise out of New Orleans, and I started watching the cruise videos for the Carnival Cruise Line, actually, is what it is, on YouTube. And I was like, I'm really going to like this. So let me go ahead and book a cruise since I'm going to be down in Miami. Let me go ahead and see if I can't extend my stay and book a cruise and adjust the time that I was going to be down there and everything. And I did. So that's going to be in the end of February of 2006 and I'm going to be down there. And I went a little cruise crazy because I looked at it and I'm like, well, if I don't just come back right away, I have enough revenue that I can book another cruise. Like I can cruise and then I can just stay in Miami for a couple of days and then I can go back on that second cruise. you know. And so I decided to do that. And that was some months ago that I was paying on. Since I got it paid off, because you can make these payments in advance. That's what's great about taking a cruise. I don't know. See, I don't know that hotels. I don't know that I can call up a hotel and say, let me plan a vacation, let me make payments on this reservation. I don't know how that works, because this is my time is now my own, but it wasn't for a long time. And uh, and then even when it was my time, when I did retire, what I was doing is I was putting money into the apartment, buying furniture to furnish the apartment, because I started with nothing. You know what I mean? Uh, but now that I have furniture and stuff like that, there are things that I can do, and I can treat myself once in a while. And cruises are very inexpensive. Point one and point two, you make payments on them, if they're far enough in advance. You can make payments on them, so you can really squeeze and tighten your budget, and you can get that $40 to $50 extra a month, especially if you're sharing the room with somebody. Now I'm not. This is me. I'm doing a whole single thing, you know. Um, but I wanted to be down in Miami anyway, and so yeah. Then there was that third cruise out of Miami. That's wow, it's the same price, and it's almost the same as going to. So I'm getting uh, two destinations on the first cruise, two destinations on the second cruise, and two destinations on the third cruise. Each one of the destinations is the Celebration Key, which is like a private island theme park on their private island, and Carnival Cruise. And then the other one is, there's some different spots, the others throughout the Bahamas. So it's going to be nice. Um, yeah. But then the holiday price changes happened, and what I had booked them at, the cost, they uh, they came down considerably. Even they were already affordable, then they came down really cheap. And so I called and I said, "Well, you guys price match, right?" And she was like, "Yes, we price match. We give you the difference in I'm paraphrasing, but we give you the difference in ship credit. Don't matter to us. 6-7, 6-7." She didn't say that. How fun, right? But this is an example of 6-7. Whatever. They're gonna get their money. I've already spent it. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna get extra credit on the cruise that so that means that there's like $126 that I get to spend on the boat, that I won't have to come out of pocket for extra stuff. Like if I want like the little souvenir kind of stuff to bring home. On the boat. It does it. You can't spend it on the shore or anything like that. But you can those souvenirs on the boat or whatever. That's kind of cool. Or whatever. Because by the way, there's a deck on these boats. It's like basically like a shopping mall. Like if you're into diamonds and you want to buy diamonds on the boat when it's away from as they call it, duty free. When it's in international waters, duty free. You're not having to pay taxes for the governments to do their duty, because there's no government out there, essentially, international waters. So tax free / duty free, same thing. Uh, yeah, it's fun. And then I'm deciding, so I have the 4 days on the boat, 3 days in Miami, 4 days on the boat, 3 days on Miami, and then that final 4 days on the boat. And I'm deciding, is it more economic to get hotels in Miami, or just go ahead and get those two interval cruises, because there's a 3-day cruise and a 3-day cruise in between those 3 4-day cruises. And so I literally could, if I watch my money, I could go ahead and do that, because there's enough time that I could do that. Um, And what would it matter? Yeah, 6, 7, right? Because I could get a lesser room in Miami, but I'd have to end up paying for my dinners and stuff like that, which the boat, all the food is all inclusive. So it's about the same amount of money, So it's basically which one would I enjoy more, which one would I want to do more, or whatever. So, and this is probably the last time in my life I'm ever going to be able to do this. To this extent, like I don't imagine I'm ever really going to be able to go away uh, uh, for 20 or so days and be away from home ever again. Like that's yeah, I realize that's this is one of these things that you save up and you do. You don't do it every year. You save up, you do it every so many years. Is when you're lucky enough to be able to do that. And I did. I sacrificed a lot to be able to do it. I really tighten my belt in order to be able to afford to do that. But I know that it's going to be worth it because I have already been on one cruise and I really, really enjoyed it. But I was with my friend Jay and our friend Michelle, and she was serendipitous. I met her on the cruise, and so yeah, uh, it's like it became my new thing. But being a Generation Xer, uh, and also being raised by myself and an addict who's in recovery, I still obsessed, and I think that's kind of what happened. I think for a while, I think I booked those cruises in a moment of bipolar excitement, and probably if I had, whatever, I don't know, whatever it is, I'm glad that I did it though. I do not regret it. But they're paid for. They're already paid. They're already bought. They're already paid for. And so, yay. But that was going to be, I kept talking about, hey, I've got a cruise coming up. And I took the cruise and I posted. And then I kept talking about, hey, I've got another vacation, but I'm going to wait and let it be a surprise. Of course, the cat's out of the bag. I've already talked about it. So, but then the whole thing now, that's what I get to decide. I get to look at my budget over December, January, and then going into February. Those are the 3 months that I get to decide if I'm going to spend more time in Miami or more time on the boat. Financially, it's going to be about the same. 6, 7, 6, 7. Does it really matter? No. That's basically what that phrase means. That's an example. So you don't really need to do any more research. If you hear your kids saying 6, 7, it's basically a nonsensical phrase that basically has no meaning, so it literally doesn't matter. Like Gilbert and Sullivan, Pirates of Penzance, no, it really doesn't matter, matter. Really doesn't matter. This particularly rapid, unintelligible chatter, is it really by Chuck Dickens? So it really doesn't matter. So whatever. That was that scene in the Pirates of Penzance where the Pirate King and Ruth come to talk to Frederick about the clause in his contract that he signed, because he's bound by duty. He is not duty free. That his birthday is on a leap year. So he has, to the date, as it's written, of his birthday, February 29th, he has not completed the obligation to his band of pirates. And he is still under obligation to remain with the Pirates of Penzance. What to do? It's a paradox. And that's what that episode of the play was about. So great. Gilbert and Sullivan. Gotta love those guys. Okay, so yeah, a whole bunch of 6, 7. Don't stress it, And then also, why did I want to do this video? Because I saw the thing. I just happened to be looking at the news, and they were doing it, and then they they were asking to the kids, and they were like, Hey, just don't try to worry about our language. Like, okay, so, um, you little bitches, I'm a Generation Xer. We spoke in code long before we even considered the grandchildren that you are. Our parents spoke in code, but we knew it because hey, we were raised on their televisions because all their programs replayed because there really wasn't that much content. So yeah, whatever. Everything that trended in our parents' era trended. So we had that, plus we had ours, plus whatever. Plus, we're the first ones. You may be the first ones born completely in the new millennium. My generation, we were the first ones to learn how to, in mass, you know, create coding for computers and, HTML and binary and all those basic things uh, that still support everything that you would want to do with computers today. Now, you may have to teach me. You may have to teach me how to self-publish, but uh, how to copy and paste. But we were the ones who learned how to program in the first place, and I do include myself in that. I was taking those computer literacy classes when I was a little grunge wearing, long haired, dirty grunge boy before they even called it grunge in middle school. So, bite me. 6'7". God bless. Love and light. Ciao, Bella. Bye.